On December 13, 1872, a ghostly sailing ship silently floated in the fog of Gibraltar's harbor. Her name was Mary Celeste. The boat was adrift in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, completely without purpose, as if by the gesture of an unseen sailor. There were only 3 other crew members on board. Discovered it abandoned in mid-sea and towed it to port. The ship was manned by the captain himself, his wife and young daughter, and 7 highly skilled sailors, a total of 10 lives. But despite a search of the entire ship, none of them were found. You know what's the craziest thing? The ship did not sink or crash in a storm. The water pumps inside the ship were working perfectly. A frozen scene awaited the rescue team as they carefully stepped onto the empty death row deck. The captain's bed is in the cabin. Even the impression of a 2-year-old child lying there was clearly visible. It felt like someone had just gotten out of there. Adequate food, drinking water, and valuables were lying unattended on the ship. Everything seemed as if 10 people drowned in the middle of the sea after falling into the clutches of an unknown evil force and leaving everything behind. You might think it's a pirate, but no one touched the cargo of expensive alcohol kept under the ship. There was not a single drop of blood or sign of struggle on the entire ship. Some say that the sea devoured them. Some say it's an alien invasion. Others say it's the curse of Atlantis. But none of these cheap theories, which have been around for 150 years, are actually true. Arthur Doyle is the creator of Sherlock Holmes. According to him, the fate of the crew of the Mary Celeste will also be linked to the numerous mysteries of the sea bottom that will not be solved until the day the sea returns her body. So what really happened that day at the cursed call of the Mary Celeste? Today we will go deep into the real truth by breaking all the rumors and lies of this ghost ship. A fact that is more thrilling and terrifying than any Hollywood thriller movie. The story begins in 1860, Spencer Island in Nova Scotia, Canada. The ship was built by a man named Joshua Dewis. The interesting thing is that in the beginning, the name of this ship was not Mary Celeste. When construction began in the early 1860s, it was named Ammon. At 99 feet long and weighing 198.5 tons, it was the largest ship afloat in the Bay of Fundy at the time. But since the birth of this Amazon ship, it seems that a strange evil force was associated with it. Its first captain, Robert McLean, contracted severe pneumonia and died before setting out on his first voyage with the ship. You will be surprised to know that the very first task of this huge ship was to deliver the body of its captain to his widow. Unfortunately, the ship did not sail. The ship then had a terrible collision with a British ship in the Dover Strait. The British ship was completely destroyed. Later, another man, Captain Thompson, attempted to defraud the insurance company by deliberately blocking the ship from boarding in order to extort money. After all these scandals, a man named Richard Double Haynes bought it. But to evade import duty or tax, he cleverly changed the name of the ship to Mary Celeste. But has the name of the ship changed? It was the end of 1872. Mary Celeste was owned by James Winchester. He made many improvements to the ship. Ben Briggs is the new captain. He was a very experienced and calm American sailor. Captain Briggs was accompanied on the voyage by his wife Sarah and 2-year-old daughter Sophie. Accompanying them were 7 skilled sailors and a pet cat, whom little Sophie fondly called Pooh. On November 5, 1872, Mary Celeste set sail from New York with 171 barrels of alcohol bound for Genoa, Italy. Just over a month later, on December 5th, Captain David Morehouse of another sailing ship, the Gracia, spotted the Mary Celeste in the distance. The ship was in an unusual position. Its sails were erratic, and there was no one at the steering wheel. After several calls but no response, de Gracia's fast mate, Oliver DeVoe, boarded the Mary Celeste with a few sailors, and what they saw there was enough to freeze their blood. There was not a single person on the ship. There wasn't even a sign of the cat. A railing on the port side of the ship was open. Boats were working fine. However, 3 feet of water had accumulated inside the pit. Everything inside the cabin is wet in the rain because the skylight was open. Someone was sleeping in the captain's bed. The bed was not cleaned, and the impression of the 2-year-old lying there was still clear. This means that they left the ship in a hurry after waking up in the morning. And you know what's even more amazing? There was enough food and water on board. Cash, clothes, and other valuables were strewn all over the place. The last entry in the ship's logbook was made on November 24th, which is 10 days before the discovery. He wrote a fictionalized account of the incident in which he misspelled the ship's name as Marie Celeste instead of Mary Celeste, and that mistake is still in people's mouths. But in any case, the rumors about the Mary Celeste are more mixed than logic. The most logical and plausible explanation was given by Dr. Oliver Cobb, a relative of Captain Briggs himself. Do you remember what 171 barrels were on the ship? Alcohol. There was a severe storm in the Atlantic in November. Because of the storm, the barrels in the belly of the ship were constantly bumping into each other. Then, as the ship entered warmer weather, the change in temperature caused toxic gases of alcohol to leak from the barrels. Captain Briggs himself knew that there was gas in the cargo hold, because in the logbook it was written about the sound of thunder coming from the cargo hold. The gas began to leak into the ship's hull. As a result, the entire ship was swelling and creating a strange kind of deafening silence. On the morning of November 25th, Captain Briggs decided to open the cargo hatch and release the poisonous gas. But as soon as they opened the hatch, the poisonous gas spread all over the ship. It is difficult for adults to stop breathing this gas. It's terrible for a 2-year-old. There was a fear of an explosion at any moment. Captain Briggs was a cold-hearted man. He didn't want to take any risk. He ordered the ship's small lightboard to be lowered. The portside railing was opened and the boat was lowered. Quickly, the skylight was opened and some necessary things were taken. Their plan was to tie the live boat to the Mary Celeste with a long rope, so that when the gas is out, they can return to the ship. But nature played a cruel game with them. Soon after they got on the boat, the weather suddenly began to deteriorate. Strong wind and rain. The Mary Celeste's sails were not fully lowered. The ship suddenly began to move forward at high speed. The crew on the small lifeboat couldn't hold on to the rope tied to the ship. The rope is torn or they have to be completely disconnected from the ship. 10 animals in a small boat in the middle of a storm in the heart of the vast Atlantic Ocean. They have never been found. The open sea swallows them forever. And the Mary Celeste became a ghost ship after traveling 378 miles alone. But the curse of the Mary Celeste did not end here. After this incident, those who bought the ship are in some danger. Finally, in 1884, an owner named Wesley Gove and Captain Parker, in their greed for insurance money, deliberately crashed the ship into a coral reef in Haiti, but they were caught cheating. The strange thing is that within 6 months of the destruction of the Mary Celeste, all 3 of its owners, the captain and the first mate, died mysteriously. Even the 2 ships that were used in the investigation of this incident were lost forever at sea on their next voyage. Even today, when the name of Mary Celeste is heard, a terrible cold stream flows in the hearts of the sailors. And Dr. Cobb's scientific explanation is the most logical yet. But did they really leak only alcohol that day? Or did they commit some unknown curse hidden deep in the sea? Comment below and let us know what you think.